Hey everyone, it's Minty and I have no idea what I'm titling this video, but I'm basically going to be trying to improve my art style because I've been in art block lately. I think the reason is that I'm kind of bored of my current process and my style. And I think a lot of you guys probably go through this too every so often, and I want to show you how I like to get out of this sort of slump and how I make my art more exciting for me. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is actually imitating one of my favorite artists' art styles. And I'm going to do this with a few artists, so the more the better, but I started off with Lavender Town because she is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite artist of all time. Her videos are really fun too, but I just love her style. So these are the reference images that I used because they're more recent and I think that they are some of my favorites that she's done. My favorite part of her style is definitely the eyes. I love how they're so big and cartoony, but at the same time they're really detailed and they definitely stand out on each character. Now, while I get into the coloring of this piece, I'm just going to explain why I'm doing this and how this is going to get me out of art block and improve my art. I'm going to assume that most of you have watched videos along the lines of how to find your art style, and the most common tip is looking at your favorite artist's art and then choosing things you love to include in your art. And I have tried this before when I was younger, but it didn't actually help me that much. I think a more effective way of doing this is by completely imitating their style. Not forever, because you can't just take their art style, but maybe try drawing your OC, if you have one, in their style, and then do another with a different artist, which is what I'm doing now. But make sure to give credit if this is going to be seen by anyone else. This is helpful because you might find out that you prefer doing bigger eyes or smaller heads, but I don't really think that's what you should be looking for when you do this. Try focusing on their coloring and the line art, the less obvious parts of the process that you could include in your art to make it more fun, and actually change up your way of drawing to make you want to draw again. So as I mentioned earlier, the thing that attracts me to her art style is the eyes, but that's not really what I took away from this activity. What I learned was about the line art and how she varies her lines and uses thin black line art most of the time. So that's what I did. I used my thinnest black pen, and that's something that I've never done before until trying this, and it's something that I wanted to include later on, and I'm not sure if I'll do it all the time, but I really enjoyed it this time and it definitely made me want to draw. I hope that all of this is making sense to you guys. This process has worked for me in the past and I haven't done it on purpose. It was more like I was feeling an art block and then I decided to do a video of trying different art styles, and then after that my art block was somehow solved and I loved my new art style a lot better. So that's where I kind of thought of this. It's not that unique, but it definitely works. This process was just fun in general, and even if you're not in art block, it could be fun to try a new style just to see how other people do things. It's also a pretty cool video idea. I love how Lavender Town uses different types of shading. She kind of includes soft shading along with cell shading, and it's pretty cool. She does do it digitally, so that makes it a lot easier and explains how I kind of struggled to get that mix with traditional, but at the same time, I haven't really done that style much, so that's why I couldn't get it, but I tried. I like how it turned out, but it's also kind of scary, and I can't help but look at the way her hairline is so far back on one side. Her hands also don't make any sense, but I think that's something we all know that I can't really do. Drawing in her style was so much fun, but now it's time to try a different artist's art style, and for this I'm going to be using some different equipment. Another pro of this whole activity is finding out new mediums that you can use in order to make your art more fun. This one is based off of the artist Happy's Charms. She makes a lot of short videos on YouTube. Her art style is just adorable, but I also love how neat it is and it's super satisfying to color it in. I'm doing a different OC for this one, and I went with one of my guy OCs. His name is Archie. Well, his name is Archie so far. I might change it because I've kind of gone back and forth with a couple of names and his design isn't even complete, so I probably should have chosen a different character because it would have made it a lot easier to draw, but I went with it and it turned out alright in the end. This one reminded me of the fun in using these pens. I did go through a phase of using them all the time, which was just a couple months back, but I got bored of it, and now I think I'm starting to get bored of my current process, which is coloring first and then doing some sketchy line art on top. So I might go back to this style of line art first and then colouring after because it's really satisfying to colour in, and I think it just looks nicer on camera as well. Yeah, I think I will make the switch of the order of colouring and line art, but maybe not permanently, just to change things up a little, and I might even do a mix of both, just do whatever I feel like. I don't know, we will see in the next video. This character has a hair gradient, which didn't really help with the whole simplified look because I needed to add a lot more blending than I think Happy Charms usually does. I don't know if she's done gradients much in her characters, but usually it's a flat color with some cell shading. Coloring the little cloak was really fun. It was just satisfying to go in with the flat color and then the little patches of darker brown on the shoulders. But the main part that I really enjoyed was actually the background, and that's probably a surprise? It's probably a surprise because that's the most boring part, but it was just really fun to color. She does these square backgrounds a lot, and I do a similar sort of thing, but I made it exactly the same as hers this time, and I think I might do this kind of background a little bit more with the squares. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know, it depends on the character, I guess, but later on in the video when I try drawing in my own style again, I do end up using this sort of style of background. A bit different, but inspired by this. Despite her style being really simple, it's really unique and actually quite hard to replicate. The face of this was kind of hard to get right, and I had to do a couple of sketches to finally get something that looked like her style, even though I think the face is a little bit too wide in my version. She also doesn't really draw boys much, and neither do I, so I'm not judging her for that, but it did mean that I didn't really have many reference to use for the male face, so I used this one, which a lot of you might have seen because it got quite a lot of views, and in conclusion, I quite like how it turned out. Now, I was planning on doing another artist because all this is really fun to do, but I realized that I kind of know what I want to change about my art now, and I thought I could have a go at doing my own style again with a couple of minor changes. So you can already notice, if you've watched my other videos and seen how my art usually is, that I switched to the thin black line art, which was inspired by Lavender Town style, but I didn't add any variation in the thickness because I don't think that part would really suit my line art too much, and I thought it wouldn't smudge because it didn't smudge much when I was doing the Lavender Town drawing, but this one did actually smudge, and I probably just didn't wait long enough for it to dry. So if I'm gonna do this again, which I plan on doing again, then I'll definitely wait for the line art to dry because the smudging doesn't look too good. Although this character, which is my OC Hazel, she is meant to be a little bit dirty because of her story and everything, which I'm not gonna explain right now, but so the smudging didn't really matter too much because it just added more of an effect, but at the same time I didn't plan on doing it, and I'm not sure how much I like that. And I also wanted to try the shading mix of cell shading and soft shading. I didn't include as much soft shading. I think on the clothes I only did the cell shading. Cell shading, by the way, is just hard shading without any blending, so that's what I did for the clothes. The face was still soft shading as usual because I want the blush to be really blended out and everything, and the hair was just kind of like a weird mix of both. I think it looks more soft, but I don't really know what went on with the hair, but I love the finished product. I don't know if I'll say that this is my favorite drawing ever, but it's definitely close to it, and I think it just might be my favorite, but I'm not sure because this is a character that I have drawn quite a lot, so it's not like the design was new, and usually my favorite drawing has like a really cool design, whereas this one I've drawn a lot, so I'm not bored of it, but it's nothing new to me. But I think the style, I really like it. It looks kind of like something that I would picture in a book. If I wrote a book with like drawings or a comic or something, I would imagine this style as being the one I use. And you guys probably can't even see that much of a difference. I guess if you compare it to the drawing I did in my last video, which was all about my art block, then you'll be able to see the difference. But the main thing here is not how other people see it, but this whole activity is just to get you out of art block, make you fall in love with your art style again, and try something new. You might be thinking that I didn't really include anything from the Happy Charms drawing experiment, but I did. I used that for the background, and I did the little tile pattern, I guess. I don't know, but I really like that, and I also added a cell shaded shadow behind the character without doing the usual white border that I usually do, and I like this a lot better. Anyway, thank you for watching, and bye! Subscribe.